The Golf GTI has been a huge hit for VW, so it's no surprise to find it's trying to repeat the feat with the smaller Polo GTI. Featuring scaled-down Golf looks, a classy interior and big car refinement, the new Polo GTI promises to be a cut above mainstream rivals. Prices start at £18,850 for the 3-door car you can see here, and rise to £19,480 for the 5-door version. The Polo isn't the only small hot hatch with upmarket aspirations though. The Mini Cooper S's top-notch build quality and cheeky retro design cues have made it a huge sales hit. It's also a riot to drive. You can buy a 3-door version for £18,655, while the 5-door car will set you back £19,440. It's almost as if VW bosses have been carefully studying Mini's price lists. As you'd expect from a VW carrying a GTI badge, the Polo isn't short of firepower. Its turbocharged 1.8 litre engine kicks out 189 bhp and a thumping 320 Nm of torque. The Mini has a larger 2 litre turbo. It delivers the same 189 bhp output, but has 40 Nm less torque. But which car is fastest? Well, there's only one way to find out: a good old-fashioned drag race.
Here we are on the starting line. Both cars have got around 190 horsepower and 6-speed gearboxes, and we switched the traction control off. Now the Polo's got slightly more torque than the Mini, but the Mini weighs a little less. So, in other words, this is going to be a close contest. Let's see how we get on. Oh, and we're off. Oh, the Mini has a little bit of the lead off the line, but I'm gaining on it. I think I've got this one into third, and oh, by about a car length, the Polo takes the win. Well, that was closer than I was expecting.
So the Polo was quicker, but by how much? According to our timing equipment, the VW needed just 6.8 seconds to go from 0 to 60. The Mini was just 3/10 behind, posting a time of 7.1 seconds. Of course, there's more to a great hot hatch than just straight line performance. It has to be great fun in the corners too.
Mini has always been a byword for driving fun, and this 5-door car is no exception. Of course, it's bigger and slightly heavier than old cars, but it still retains that sense of excitement when you're driving. There's a directness to the steering and a meatiness to it that makes you feel connected to the road, and the gear shift has a nice, precise action. And as ever with Mini, you get that blaring exhaust note, pops and bangs on the overrun. It just adds to the fun. It's quick too, it really pulls from nothing all the way through to the red line. You can specify optional adaptive dampers, which just take the edge off the firm ride. And when you're not driving like a hooligan, refinement's pretty good actually. And the brakes have brilliant progression and feel. Even in these damp and greasy conditions, there's a surprising amount of grip. And you can carry big speed through the corners in the Mini. It's got that typical go-kart feel. Now, unlike the Polo, the Mini, in its efforts to make driving fun at the core of the experience, you can turn the ESP off, and that means, with a bit of provocation, it's very playful. And yet it never feels snappy like the older car, which had a much shorter wheelbase, so you can exploit the car's balance using the throttle and the steering, and it really is quite good fun.
So it's a thumbs up for the Mini. Let's see if the Polo can match it.
Right, on the move in the Polo, well, if you've driven a Golf GTI, there's a lot that will feel familiar. The steering wheel, the tartan seats, it's all very kind of upmarket hot hatch, but you just can't help feeling after a few corners that Volkswagen have sort of turned the wick down on the Polo in an effort to separate it from the Golf GTI. It's just, the steering feels a bit lighter and less precise. The gear shift has got this kind of slightly light and loose feel. It's not like the Mini that's got that nice precise mechanical shift. VW also suffers from a lack of traction, particularly on the exit of corners. It's got Volkswagen's XDS diff, which tries to sort of break individual wheels to mimic a Liberty slip differential, but it just doesn't have the mechanical grip of the Mini. So turn it in and get on the throttle hard, and you just feel the power bleeding away on the inside wheel as it spins up. Another area where the Polo differs over the Mini is that the traction control has a sport setting rather than a fully off function, so you'll get a little bit of slip as you throw it into a corner, but you just feel the ESP gather it up for you. It's very unobtrusive and effective, but it just takes away a layer of driver involvement that the Mini has.
VW has gone to town on the Polo's interior, giving it a real GTI makeover. In fact, apart from the lack of a pimpled golf ball gear lever, you could easily mistake it for the larger Golfs. There's the same use of upmarket materials and excellent fit and finish. It lacks a little design flair, but the grown-up look gives it a real feel-good factor. The Mini's interior is every bit as upmarket as the Polo's, but its numerous retro design touches mean it feels a little more special. However, like the VW, you don't get as much standard kit as you'd expect, and it's easy to get carried away with the options list. Our car costs nearly £25,000. You could almost get a Golf GTI for that.
Of course, a big part of the appeal of a hot hatch is that not only is it fast and fun to drive, it offers a decent amount of everyday practicality. Now, in that respect, our two cars here are quite closely matched. Now, as you can see, the Polo we've got is a 3-door, but in terms of rear seat space, it's exactly the same as the 5-door car. That means there's a decent amount of legroom and a decent amount of headroom. And it's the same with the Mini, pretty much evenly matched. I will say though that with the Mini, the rear doors are really quite small, so getting in and out is a bit of a faff. When it comes to boot space, well, you'd expect them to be closely matched. And if you were to buy a standard Polo, you'd be right, because it gets 280 litres of space. However, in its efforts to squeeze a 1.8 litre engine underneath the Polo's bonnet, Volkswagen has had to move the battery to the boot, and that reduces capacity to 204 litres. So that makes the Mini the winner in this contest, because despite its compact dimensions and narrow boot opening, its capacity of 278 litres is far greater than the Polo's.
Hot hatches also need to be cost effective to run. In our hands, the Polo returned 37.4 mpg and the Mini managed 39.3 mpg. Not bad when you consider the performance on offer. Both cars also emit less than 140 grams per kilometre of CO2, so taxing them won't cost the earth either.
These two hot hatches really are very closely matched. In terms of price, practicality, performance and upmarket appeal, there's nothing to separate them. So how do we decide on a winner? Well, the new Polo GTI, it's a really nice thing. It's very refined, it's grown up, but you just get the feeling that Volkswagen have turned the wick down a bit so it doesn't tread on the toes of its Golf GTI big brother. It's just a little bit too predictable, a little bit too safe. The Mini, on the other hand, well, it's a riot from the moment you turn the key in the ignition. It's loud, it's fast, and it's just a thrill to drive. And at the end of the day, that's what separates the great from the good when it comes to hot hatches. So, by the narrowest of margins, the Mini takes the victory.
If you want to find out how the Golf R compares to the Seat Leon Cupra, click the video on the left. If you want to find out how the Golf GTI compares against the Renault Megane RS, click the video on the right. Click the play icon to view our latest video, and click on our logo to subscribe to our channel.